Hey everyone, welcome back to 996 The Howl. Now I'm sure all of you spend your Friday and Saturday nights doing something meaningful, purposeful. I had to bear the burden of watching the prospect games. It concluded Monday afternoon. It was held in Vegas. The production quality awful, looking at games through black netting. Whoever thought of that, to put the camera behind black netting, should probably lose their job, at least put it over the netting. The commentator Bob Hitos did the best he could, but production value wasn't really there. But at the end of the day, we don't expect much. It's the Coyotes and its prospects we're talking about here. But I watched all three games, pretty good games. The Coyotes finished 2-0-1. They didn't lose in regulation. They had games against the Avalanche, the Kings, and the Sharks, winning their last two games. Pretty good, defensive clinics shown by the Coyotes, not allowing more than 3 goals. It was pretty much a 5-2 game against San Jose. San Jose scored that third one. A little bit left in the third period. But let's talk about the main things we want to talk about is the players. Is this rebuild going well? And yes, it is. I mean, a lot of players in this tournament just looked excellent to me. And the fact that some of these players are going back to junior hockey, I mean, I wish they could all play for the Tucson Roadrunners or the Coyotes this season, but there's just no space. But let's jump into it. I think the best player for the Coyotes this tournament was Josh Doan, wearing the C, the captain patch. Captain Doan, Josh Doan getting 7 points in 3 games played. He plays such a simple, effective hockey style. He doesn't quit on plays. He goes after pucks. He's around the net. If he gets a puck, if he receives a pass in a good scoring area, he'll just shoot it. He doesn't care about passing to someone else. If he finds himself, hey, this is an 80% good shot opportunity, I'm just going to take the shot and see what happens. Like I said, being around the net, one of his first goals in the first game, he scored between his legs at the side of the net, like this. Very James Van Riemsdyk esque. JVR used to do that all the time on the Maple Leafs. Josh Doan, cannot say enough good things about him. I can't wait for him to lead the Tucson Roadrunners back to relevance, and he might even crack a Coyotes roster spot if there are injuries. I could see if Krause gets injured. Josh Doan reminds me so much of Lawson Krause. Big power forward, simple game, nothing flashy. He's not a speedster either, but he makes himself involved in plays and doesn't seem to get beat a lot. He just does the right things all the time. Way to go, Josh Doan. Connor Geekie. Now, Cooley and Gunther played the first game against the Avalanche, but after that it was the first line of Doan, Geekie, and Ratu, which led this team to back-to-back victories. And I was a bit unsure how Geekie would fare as number one center and trying to drive that line of Doan and Ratu, but Geekie did a phenomenal job. He goes around the net as well. Most of his goals are around the crease. He has more speed than Doan. There was a goal that he just sped down the wing and cut in front of the goalie and scored on a backhand. Hustles a lot, goes to those dirty areas, gets pucks out, and pretty good power play as well with Geekie, Doan, and Ratu. That was a fantastic line, and they were up to the task and completed the task as being the 3 forwards to just carry this forward group, because after those 3 players, you were left with the Lutz, and then after that was just a bunch of amateur tryouts, which neither of them moved the needle for me at all, so don't want to waste too much time on those forwards. Going to the defense, should we? We'll stick with Ratu. I thought he was pretty good as well, noticeable. Nothing too flashy, but he didn't look out of place, and he had great chemistry with Doan and Geekie, so I can't fault him for that. And he's not really supposed to be this amazing prospect, so I didn't have high expectations for Ratu. Just the fact that he looked good, noticeable, was making good plays, and made Doan and Geekie better players or just supplemented them very well. I put him in the noticeable category. I'll go back to Cooley and Gunther. Cooley, to me, this is my first full game of watching Cooley and not just college highlights of his days in Minnesota. Cooley was the player that stood out the most on the Coyotes roster. No one on this roster was playing like Cooley. Cooley was dancing through the neutral zone, through the offensive zone, always wanted possession, maybe a bit too individualistic at times, maybe looking for that perfect play at times. A very complicated way of hockey compared to Josh Doan, who was very simple and straightforward. But Cooley had so much skill, very flashy. It gives me a bit of pause to see how he will fit on the Coyotes because he wants the puck. He wants to hold on to the puck, sort of like a Clayton Keller. So not really sure who you pair him up with. I think a perfect world would be Cooley, Krause, and Zucker. But I know Krause and Michelli have so much chemistry that you won't break them up just yet. But for me, it would seem like you need players around Cooley who don't care that they don't touch the puck and could get the puck out for Cooley and go in those dirty areas where Cooley wouldn't or maybe needs help in. Then Zucker's there, who is a competitive guy as well, and he's not afraid to shoot either, but he doesn't demand the puck as much as Cooley. So if you had like a Cooley-Michelli line, I don't see how that works because Michelli wants the puck as well and is a great playmaker that we saw last season. So, maybe more games, more reps in training camp, Cooley with the Coyotes, and he sort of finds his game there. Gunther, I put in a noticeable column because his main skill is his sharp shooting ability, his elite shot, quick release, very accurate laser power play specialist. But other than that, I just find it hard for him to just find what he's good at on the ice. Like, he's got okay speed, he's got okay competitiveness, he's got a big frame but doesn't really use it. It's his shooting ability that makes him stand out, which is why he was drafted 9th overall. But, he's having a hard time finding those areas and opportunities and space to just unleash those shots. And when he does get those opportunities, it seems like he's just fumbling the shot or missing the net. I know it was only one game. I could be seen as being hard on him. But even last prospect tournament, I just didn't see that shooting skill that I've seen in so many highlights in his junior career. So I'm a bit worried that, in this NHL, AHL type of system, he won't have the space that he likes to have in juniors to unleash those shots. But hopefully he learns, and just like Cooley, just gets better reps. Again, it was just one game that Gunther and Cooley played. Ratu, I already talked about him. So we'll go to the defense. I love the defense this prospect tournament. Last prospect tournament, it was literally just Langlois, and he played a good tournament last year as well, but he was carrying the whole workload himself. This year, finally, we had Lamoureux and Zuber as a top pairing. They were the top pairing for all 3 games. I didn't know Zuber was so big. This is, again, me seeing Zuber and Lamoureux playing for the first time. Zuber is 6'3", very big. Lamoureux, 6'7", 6'6". These guys are huge, but they're not only big, they're just so agile, quick on their feet. They don't get beat. Their sticks are so long that in the defensive side of the game, the opposition had such a hard time just maintaining offensive zone pressure and maintaining possession in the Coyotes' defensive zone because their sticks are so long. And if you try to go around Lamoureux or Zuber, their sticks are there. So you could get around their body, sure, easily, but they just turn around with their stick, and that's like 7 feet of stick right there. In the offensive zone, they keep the puck in really well, and they're not afraid to do crossovers on the blue line, hold possession on the line, walk the line. I love Zuber and Lamoureux's game, and it was my first time seeing them play hockey. So very impressed, along with Langlois, who didn't look out of place. And, unfortunately, Langlois had to be paired with guys like Onyebuchi, Kipke sometimes. So he wasn't playing with the best defensive line mate. But all the defense all around just didn't let a lot of grade A opportunities from the opposition. Very, very little odd man rushes all throughout all 3 games. So very impressed with the defense. Kipke was a draftee. Didn't really move the needle for me. He's a 5th round pick a couple months ago. Didn't really have expectations for him. Terrell Goldsmith, another defenseman. He's a big bruiser. He's a goon. and he was trying to get into fights the whole tournament, protecting players and standing up for players when they had dirty hits against them. You know, in that San Jose game this afternoon, Geekie gets hit from behind, and Goldsmith immediately comes in and just roughs up the guy. Sure, he takes a penalty, but you got to stand up for your teammates. And the fact that Goldsmith just joined the team a couple months ago, being drafted, and he's standing up for a guy like Geekie, shows what type of player he is, and I love that. Love to have a player like that on the team. Lutz, yes, disappointment. I'm not even going to talk about him much. Completely invisible in that third game. I am so sorry. I didn't even know he was playing until midway through the third period when I heard his name. Just, it cannot happen. You're a second round pick and you're unnoticeable and you're on the second line and there's no one else. It's like after Geekie, Doan, and Ratu, there was no one else in the forward group that was a draftee other than Lutz. There's Ekvard too, but he's like a 2019 draft pick. I didn't have high expectations for him either. But you're a second round pick. You got to show that you're a second round pick. And he just blended in with a bunch of amateur tryouts. Just didn't really sit well with me. Thornton played 2 games. And in the first period of the San Jose game where he didn't allow a goal in that first period, amazing. I think Prosvetov should, I think it lights a fire under Prosvetov's behind to just get his act together and play good hockey. Thornton was unbelievable in this whole tournament, fantastic, making desperate saves, keeping the team in it, never letting the team down. Cannot say enough good things about Thornton. I think he could grab an American Hockey League spot for the Tucson Roadrunners. I think he is more than ready to play in the AHL. And honestly, if Bill Armstrong does have to make a decision between Prosvetov or Thornton, I will have no problems with moving forward with Thornton. They also signed a backup, during free agency, Vialta, who had pretty good numbers with the Ontario Reign the past 2 seasons. So I'm comfortable with the Thornton and Vialta pairing, goaltending tandem for the Tucson Roadrunners. Prosvetov, he could be the odd man out at this training camp, but there's a lot of preseason games, and Prosvetov is staying back with the Coyotes, who are staying in Arizona. So Prosvetov will have a lot of chances to show that he should still stay in the organization, and he'll be competing with Vialta and Thornton. I'm pretty sure I pronounced Vialta 3 different times right there. So that's it for me. I like the tournament. I'm very happy that a lot of the high draft picks Bill Armstrong has made over the years are having a huge impact. They look NHL ready, and they're just going to keep getting better and better. And even against the rookies of all these 3 teams, I thought Lamoureux, Zuber, Doan, Geekie, they looked like the best players. And yes, it wasn't as flashy as these Connor Bedard highlights or Fantilli highlights. The Coyotes just worked hard. They won these games, and they played good hockey, and were very competitive. Never gave up in any of the 3 games I saw, and just really proud of how they came out for this 3-game tournament. So that's it for me. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.